Dunner fucking Kyle. I haven't even started yet, and I already have to break continuity. But just like with the 120 dB girls, I feel like I have to voice my opinion here.
So, here goes. The more tech-savvy among you probably have heard of the code of conduct that the Linux kernel people have adopted. Well, I'm not a fan. Neither are some actual developers who apparently have threatened to have their code removed from the kernel. Anything to fight the social justice warriors, I guess. Though what other choice do they have? Pulling their contributions might cripple the kernel and make Linux unusable for a good while, which would be disastrous since it runs everything that matters. Probably not the machine you run your second job simulator on, but I'm sure Blizzard uses Linux for their servers, just like the rest of the internet. Well, not all of it, 85% I keep reading. Most of your phones though. Android is Linux-based. So is Facebook, Google, Amazon and PayPal. Banks were the earliest adopters of Linux after all. So the stock exchange and basically all of our economy also powered by Linux. But even stuff you wouldn't think of like mining and oil rig equipment, air traffic control systems and nuclear submarines. Scary shit, don't you think? So this time the social justice warriors aren't just destroying another community, they are actually endangering human lives. Anyway, there are links in the description so you can read up on it yourself since this isn't my area of expertise. I know though that future releases of Linux might take a while if a lot of coders are missing. They don't have enough maintainers as it is. And if good people leave, things might look grim. If a new security flaw pops up, and they do now and then, fixing it might take a while. And in that time, those companies using software with known security issues might be liable. And they really hate that word. So to avoid all that, it could be that they just shut everything down until things go back to normal. All this isn't the best advertisement for Linux, I might add. Though maybe I'm wrong about all of this. I'm not part of any development team, nor should I be. I mean, I can't even square 5K. I know I was nervous and all that, but that is still fucking embarrassing. Anyway, if the developers don't fight social justice, it will do what social justice does. It already destroyed comics, movies, video games. There's a reason why there's the saying, get woke, go broke on the net. The best example is Star Wars. They made crappy movies and then called their fans sexists and misogynists for calling them out on it. With that tactic, they managed to bring a billion-dollar franchise to its knees. When Solo, a Star Wars story, came out, hardly anyone went and saw it, which is unheard of for a Star Wars movie. The fans are pissed, and now they boycott their favorite franchise. That isn't a problem for Linux, though, since it's free anyway. But what if someone's code gets rejected, and the one rejecting it gets called racist, sexist, you name it, just like the Star Wars fans who rejected Episode 8? They'll get rid of that person because you can't have this kind of toxic behavior in the community. People are already getting attacked for no apparent reason, like that Garfield guy who's into BDSM and Gor. I have no idea what his sexual preferences have to do with him writing good code, but I guess we can't have people with more exciting sexual fantasies contributing. Or that so person. So? I don't know. I'm sure you know who I mean. Anyway, you won't sign our code of conduct? We'll accuse you of being a rape apologist. I'm sure there are other cases I don't know of, and if you want to point them out, feel free to do so in the comments. Either way, the Linux community can't afford this kind of bullshit. They need any good coder they can get. Now you might think without the code of conduct, the Linux community won't let in handicapped people, women, or people of color, and that way they might miss out on good developers just the same. But that is not how coders think. They respect you if you write good code, no matter what kind of equipment you have or who you like to pee on with it. All while the new code of conduct, on the other hand, makes it actually more difficult for minorities to be respected in the community. Let me tell you a little story. I recently was invited for coffee, just coffee, by a Turkish woman. She told me she was recently back in Turkey and there she saw a crippled man selling gum on the street. She's a kind-hearted woman and so she asked him how much for all of it. And he said $10. She then said, I'll take all of it, but I'll give you 20. To which the gum salesman replied, I'll sell you all of it, but only for $10. I know why you want to give me 20. It's because I'm a cripple. I don't want that. I don't need your pity. She, of course, apologized and said that it wasn't meant that way. She thought she was doing the right thing. He, of course, didn't care. He wanted to be treated like everybody else. No belittling, no special treatment. The code of conduct is the same thing. Just like diversity hires, it's actually insulting to the people it's supposed to protect. Handicapped people don't need our pity. Neither do minorities. If you hire a woman just because you have to fill a quota, you will destroy the reputation of good coders who happen to be female. Whoever does good work doesn't want handouts. They have earned the respect of the community. Now, if you say everyone should be respected, what is respect worth then? Nothing. The only people it really benefits are the self-entitled ones. You can have those in a meritocracy, because they obviously don't have what it takes to keep up. But that isn't their fault, of course, so they put themselves in the victim role, which in turn gives them the right to fight their oppressors with any means necessary. And who are those oppressors, you might ask? Well, anyone who disagrees with them, basically. They happily disregard their own rules then and use pretty strong language towards the people they can't indoctrinate. That's only the beginning, though. The social justice warriors are relentless. They will do anything to destroy you, even break the law. After all, it's okay to punch a Nazi. And anyone not supporting the social justice agenda is, you guessed it, a Nazi. These people have no place in... Actually, they have no place in the real world at all, because their whole worldview is based on hypocrisy. It's impossible for them to find happiness. Though, let's go a bit further. Let's say the social justice warriors actually take control of the Linux kernel somehow. Do you really think it will stay backdoor and spyware free then? I mean, it's okay to punch Nazis, so I'm sure it's also okay to spy on them. This all starts innocently enough. It always does. A camera here and there, hate speech laws and upload filters, all of course to protect the weak and fight off those evil people. And before you know it, you live in the European Union. And people who speak out against these things, people with integrity like that SO guy I've mentioned, who prevented a backdoor from being implemented, those are the ones social justice warriors want to get rid of first, of course. Because they also speak up against their ideology, and they can't have that. That, of course, would be the death of Linux. Why install a security system you can't trust? I know what you're thinking. Those badass coders would never let that happen. I wouldn't be so sure, though. It's pretty easy to be sucked into this. What good person wants to stand on the Nazi side? Protecting women? Sign me up. Making sure minorities are treated well? I'm your guy. And without noticing it, you become the thing you hate. Just like in the Running Man remake. Sorry, spoilers. Don't worry, it wasn't that great anyway. Luckily, the female Green Arrow realized what was happening. I mean, the way the scene was blocked, it was obvious what she was going to do. She thought she was fighting the good fight, only to realize that the master she serves is just as bad. Well, you know what the Arrow Girl did. Her master got the point. But let's move away from fiction and talk about history. Do you think all those Germans back in the day were bad people? They also thought Hitler was right and the Jews were evil. Those who spoke out against it were taken care of. Does that remind you of someone? Basically what I'm saying is, don't be German. A more recent example is what happened to Libreboot. I don't know exactly what happened, just that someone took it out of GNU, because some girl was offended when a transgendered employee of the FSF was fired just for being trans, because some transphobic, cis-sexist people wrote negatively about her. Her words, not mine. And then they had a link on the Libreboot page called Why They Aren't Part of GNU. I'm paraphrasing here. The text has been removed, it seems, and I can't really find it anymore. I only found the message where that person said that she does not believe the FSF or GNU should exist and can go fuck themselves. I linked it in the description. At some point, she came to her senses though, and an apology was issued. Also in the description. But let me give you a taste. I acknowledge that what I did was wrong. Although I felt justified at the time, I ended up hurting a lot of people, most of whom were uninvolved with any of the relevant events. At the time of taking Libreboot out of GNU, I was going through intense personal difficulty in my life, and I was highly unstable. Felt justified at the time? Those are really dangerous words, don't you think? Especially if you mix them with highly unstable. Fuck me sideways from multiple directions. I'm sure you can come up with a list of very famous, yet not kindly looked upon people who were also highly unstable and felt justified at the time. But let's go with their favorite example. The man you think of when you hear the number 420. Adolf Hitler. So, please don't be fooled by the Hitlers of this world. Anyway, so I understand why some developers threaten to leave the project. I can just hope they'll create their own fork. Not that there are enough people then on either side, but should that actually happen, you already know what the social justice warriors will do. Whoever dares and hosts the social justice free fork will be shamed for doing so. Sure, you can never stop the signal, but as I said, these people are relentless. So public shaming is just the beginning. By the way, Also something the Nazis were great at. Link in the description. What are we gonna do now? We don't want to be Nazis, nor do we want to be like the Nazis. I think what we need is someone to lead the Linux project. Someone with integrity. Someone who doesn't care about who you are, only about what you contribute. Someone who doesn't get distracted by personal or political issues. Yet someone who has a kind heart and looks out for people, but always says the cold hard truth, but never forces his views onto anyone. Well, Batman is out. Jesus doesn't work either. How about PewDiePie? Not funny enough. But wait, I think I found a guy. He isn't part of the Linux kernel developer team as far as I know, but I really think he would be perfect to lead it. Be warned though, he does have a bit of a temper. But he acknowledges it and is actually quite civil about it if confronted.
This isn't really a question, and I'm sorry to have to say this, but you know, I like working with people that can express technical disagreement in a reasonable and often pleasant way, and without resorting to playground insults. And it's really disappointing to me that you don't think that's important.
That's fine. Right. I can deal. One of the things I have noticed is, doing this for a long time, thick skin is a good thing to have. And I think it also means that the criticism ends up not working so well just because I'm used to it in so many other areas.
But during the actual development of Linux itself, that stubbornness sometimes brought you in conflict with other people. I mean, talk about that a bit. Was that essential to sort of maintain the quality of what was being built? How would you describe what happened?
I don't know if it's essential. Going back to I'm not a people person. Sometimes I'm also, shall we say, myopic when it comes to other people's feelings. And that sometimes makes you say things that hurt other people. And I'm not proud of that, right? But at the same time, I get people who tell me that I should be nice. And then when I try to explain to them that maybe you're nice, maybe you should be more aggressive, they see that as me being not nice. And what I'm trying to say is we are different. I'm not a people person. It's not something I'm particularly proud of, but it's part of me. And one of the things I really like about open source is it really allows different people to work together. We don't have to like each other, and sometimes we really don't like each other, really. I mean, there are very, very heated arguments, but you can find things that you don't even agree to disagree. It's just that you're interested in really different things.
I'm a geek. I actually really enjoy the social interaction. I enjoy cursing at people when they make mistakes. I like the back and forth. I like the arguments. It really motivates me to be part of a very vocal community. We have a lot of engineers with a lot of ego, and it's really exciting to just participate in that. So we do have technical discussions, and not all of them are cursing, but that kind of does add spice to your life. It's been a great community. Really, I mean, we're actually somewhat famous. I mean, the kernel mailing list is famous for not being a great community, but that to a large degree it's been because people then highlight the bad things going on. And if you actually, people are so nice in general. People are, I wouldn't say polite. Very many people are never, ever polite. But people are like, you can just feel the fact that people want to work together and want to make a better system. And that really makes for a great community. I'm a huge believer in not micromanaging others and trusting people. So most of the code I accept not because I look at each piece of code, because quite frankly, there's no way I could do that. I mean, go back to the 15,000 lines change every day. If I even tried to actually watch the code itself, I would go crazy. What happens is, over the years, I've created a network of people I trust. It's kind of the way people work in general. You have close friends and you know how they work, and after a while you watch the code they generate or the code they accept, and you just say, hey, I trust that person. He's the expert in his sub area, to a degree where I'm, in many cases, I have a very good overview of the kernel itself, but in many sub areas I am by no means the expert on that area. So the people I trust are often better than me for that code. So I would be stupid to then try to micromanage them and try to look at the code and overly get involved in checking what they did. That would just waste my time. It would waste their time too. That said, and this is why I'm known as being not very nice and I'm cursing a lot of people, is I don't ever get involved when things go smoothly, right? When somebody has made a mistake and accepted code they really shouldn't have accepted, that's when I have to step in, and people start mailing me and saying, hey, you broke the kernel and the last release doesn't work at all. And then I start cursing at people and saying, what the hell? I trusted you. You clearly should not have done this to me. And so quite often I get involved later on and look at this code and say, Christ, this is ugly, horrible code. How could you ever accept this? And that's the kind of involvement I often have, which is mostly negative, which can be, I mean, somewhat not good at times. I mean, people really do, I mean, some people really think I'm a grumpy old man. And I realize that if you only see my flames and my curses and not the private discussions where when things go well, you think I hate everybody. And some days that's almost true, right? But I mean, I still check code from people I don't trust. But I do have the closest 10, 15 developers. When they send me code, I say, I trust you. I'm not going to waste both of our times by trying to second guess your decision.
He's someone who would never sign the current code of conduct.
The real conflict problems come in when it becomes personal, or particularly when it becomes political inside companies. I'm sure you're all very aware of this, that when there are conflicts that arise from non-technical issues. And my approach to that, and I think this is where open source really, really shines, is that we have been very good and we have been able to try to keep our conflict resolution to technical issues. So when political issues come up, I personally will not care. I will say, this is all bullshit, I won't even respond to it, I will not spend 1 second worrying about it, and I will tell you guys, give me the technical reasons. And I think this is something where open source really can work in ways that often commercial software cannot, because inside a company, company politics are all-encompassing. You cannot avoid the company politics. When you're in open source, you can say, hey, there are all these internal company politics, but look at all the people outside this company that don't even understand our politics. And I think open source tends to often successfully avoid politics for that reason.
How do you think it affects the culture of a community of a project when the leader is on that project's public mailing list telling people in response to patch reviews that they should be retroactively aborted?
Right.
And maybe that you're surprised that they're still alive because they should have starved to death when they were children because they were too stupid to find a tit to suck on.
I agree that some people might be put off by that. But on the other hand, you know what? In the end, I don't care, right? I care about technology, and I've actually seen projects that took the whole political correctness so far that the project no longer is about the technology. Wow. We're getting more questions, I think. At some point, we might want to moderate them. So my take, don't get me, I'm very happy to talk about this. It's not a problem for me. My standpoint has always been that, hey, people are different. I'm abrasive. I grew up in a culture that I think is not quite as politically correct as the culture, especially in the US today. I also grew up in a family that was largely dysfunctional. So, so people are different, and some people take offense, and some people give offense, and we all have to live together, but the living together is not by finding some lowest common denominator. The living together, and it has actually been fairly successful, is to realize that, hey, unlike your family, you can actually pick your friends, and you can pick the co-workers, and open source is actually really good at that. Better so than many commercial software projects, because in a commercial setting, you're kind of stuck with your boss. In open source, find people you like. Find people you like working with. I work directly with, let's say, 20 people closely and 50 people more or less, right? Every release, there's 1,000 people involved. Find somebody you like better than me. That's fine, right? I'm not willing to be less honest because I know I'm abrasive, right? And quite often, the whole, like when I say something like, I wonder how he grew to be an adult when he's so stupid that I don't expect him to find food. Some people might realize that it's kind of hyperbole and jokey.
I'm not saying something bad that, it's not politically correct or whatever, although certainly I would understand if people do say this. It's more about treating other people with respect and maybe saying technical.
You know what? I mean, you can applaud everything you want, but I don't respect people unless I think they deserve the respect. There are people who think that respect is something that should be given. And I happen to be one of the people who am perfectly happy saying no. Respect should be earned.
I like being outrageous at times. It's amusing to see. I guarantee you, if you make that video available on the internet, there will be thousands of people who are really upset. And and offended. I like offending people because I think people who get offended should be offended. It's like, it's kind of good.
And he practices what he preaches.
I really very deeply agree with the things laid out in the GPL version 2, even though I then very deeply disagree with most of the stuff that comes out of Richard Stallman's mouth. So the two are not in any way, you don't have to agree with Richard Stallman to still like GPL version 2.
I really don't want to impose my worldview on anybody else.
Furthermore, what the social justice warriors are afraid of, he doesn't do. The trust doesn't come from previously knowing the person, but from the quality of their contributions. There is no hierarchy either. It's all built on past achievements. If you write good code, the maintainers trust you. He also doesn't just yell at you. Once you earn his trust, you are pretty much free to do as you please. Though about the yelling, even his boss gives him a pass on his behavior. Here, see for yourself.
And you'd think this would be a bad way to create software, right? Yelling at each other all the time, these guys are pretty mean. Well, it's interesting. In 2003, University of California, Berkeley did a study about how ideas are created, how you can create the best ideas. And they took a bunch of people and they put them into groups. One group was given traditional brainstorming instructions, right? No idea is a bad idea, don't criticize, all of that. How many people here have brainstormed? Right, of course. Another group was given the instructions, debate, rigorously defend your ideas. And guess what? The debate group didn't just do better, they crushed it. They came up with an order of magnitude better ideas.
Though if he yells at you, don't be sad about it. It would be way worse if he ignored you. As long as he replies, it shows that he cares. Not just about the good quality of the kernel, but also about your contribution. And he truly does care about people. Just listen to this part of his famous Fuck You Nvidia video.
I actually think that especially in a community like open source, other developers need to know how I feel about things. I'm impolite because I'm impolite. I mean, I'm not making excuses for that. But I also actually believe that when you work with a lot of people, it's better to be really open about your feelings so that you don't have people who, by mistake, misread you. I've had that happen. I have literally had developers who were working on things that I didn't really like, but I didn't shut down early enough. They worked on it for a long time. They felt that it was ready. They submitted it to me, and I said, no, this is horrible, because at that point I had to make a decision. And in at least one of those cases, I had some other friends basically email me later and saying the guy is suicidal. Right? I mean, and that's not my fault, but at the same time, if I'm open early on and saying, hey, this is going down a direction that I don't like, I think that's actually healthier for everybody involved instead of me stringing people along and trying to be polite. So partly it's my personality. I am blunt, and I am from Finland, and I tell people what I feel like. But partly it's actually a conscious choice to say, no, I'm not going to tone it down just because somebody might be hurt.
Someone's good fucking lord, this guy is amazing. Seriously, find him and crown him the leader of Linux. I mean, even his first name looks very similar to the name of the project. I really think he's the best choice. So, get him. And then introduce this code of conduct bullshit to dev null. You don't need it. The Linux community is already great. I don't think any more has to be said. But since my second favorite girl with a dick doesn't play piano anymore in her videos, I'm gonna sing a little song for someone I grew to appreciate a lot during my research for this. In case you wanna sing along, I wrote it in System D minor. This might very well be the darkest hour. The Linux community now needs someone sane in power. Come back to us. We need you more than ever. Please come back to us. You're not the one who needs therapy. The social justice warriors destroy everything in their way, all while pretending to speak for the black, transgendered and gay. Don't fall for their charade. Their ideology is based on hate. They throw us under the bus if you don't come back to us. Linux politics free. Open source works best as meritocracy. Come back to us. We need you more than ever. Please come back to us. You're not the one who needs therapy. The social justice warriors destroy everything in their way, all while pretending to speak for the black, transgendered and gay. Don't fall for their charade. Their ideology is based on hate. They throw us under the bus if you don't come back to us.
I care about technology, and I've actually seen projects that took the whole political correctness so far that the project no longer is about the technology.
I like offending people because I think people who get offended should be offended.
There are people who think that respect is something that should be given, and I happen to be one of the people who am perfectly happy saying no. Respect should be earned.
Come back to us. We need you more than ever. Please come back to us. You're not the one who needs therapy. The social justice warriors destroy everything in their way, all while pretending to speak for the black, transgendered and gay. Don't fall for their charade. Their ideology is based on hate. They throw us under the bus if you don't come back to us. We need you more than ever. Come back to us.
If it's been working for 30 years, it's clearly doing something right. This is my standpoint.
And that's the first episode of Continuity Break. Let's hope I don't have to make any more of these. Whoever wants to subscribe, I don't mind. But there won't be anything happening on here for at least a couple of weeks. Unless, of course, I have to break continuity again. I would prefer, though, if that didn't happen, because I'm trying to do something big here. And that requires a lot of time and effort. So, wish me luck. Oh, if you want to help out, I'm always looking for people who are able to say a sentence or three in front of a camera. Those are surprisingly hard to find. Most people I've asked so far were already busy fighting incontinence. Anyway, if one of you has an Irish girl lying around by any chance, that would also be very helpful. The one I've ordered must have been lost in the mail or something. Spaß und Freude.